Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am Baxter E. Hall. Welcome to my brain. Welcome to my frequency. Enter at your own risk. Now, today I have a special guest with me. She is the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer and HR Strategist for Exodus Consulting Group, Sandy Harvey.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello. We talked about titles. I know you're not big on titles, but you are also an ordained minister and
Yes.
pastor of Serenity Christian Church.
Yes.
Anything else that you would like to include as far as just making the people aware of who you are, kind of some of the things that you do?
Well, sure. I will share a little bit about me. So excited to be here with you, Baxter E. Hall. So Sandy Harvey, you mentioned I am a leader of Exodus Consulting Group, and I also am a pastor. I am also a coach to other pastors across the country. So in addition to pastoring, I coach other pastors who are starting churches, starting ministries. So that's an important part of what I do. And I love the diversity, equity, and inclusion space.
Nice. Well, I know we're going to get into some of that here shortly. Welcome. Thank you for making the time. We've gotten to know each other a bit, and yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you, and then and also share with the audience some of your insights and some of the your perspective. I think it's you think diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sometimes you think it's just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love your perspective on it. And it's not necessarily it's not cookie cutter. You're a true advocate in this space, and you know a few things. So I'm excited to learn more about you and talk more about some of that stuff.
Awesome.
So your background is HR. Talk about the work that you guys are doing at Exodus, and specifically the diversity piece. Why is it so important to you?
Sure. So I initially, way back when, before people even thought about anything, I started out in financial services. So that was a long time ago, and actually grew up through training and development, and that's how I went into HR. So I would create trainings, I would create, all staff days, things of that sort, all of the fun things. And then I went into HR. And so the work that we mainly focus on at Exodus is around leadership, advisory, and engagement. What's the leadership development? Because oftentimes what we've experienced is that we have people in positions that aren't prepared to be in the positions that they're in. Yes. And that even comes out in the retention, and people, it's like people don't leave their company, they leave their boss.
Yes.
And so that is a big piece, and especially when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, because if leaders are not informed and if they're not engaged and equipped, it is very difficult for them to even promote or exercise any type of diversity and inclusion initiative for any company. So I don't walk in and assume that all the leaders are on board and everybody's held accountable. That is a misnomer.
Yes. They're ready for you to tell them what they're doing wrong. And yeah. So I had a conversation earlier today about it's an association, not something that we were getting paid for, but this person and I, we were both members, and we were saying these people that were leading this thing, they're good, they were nice people. They just weren't really good leaders, right? And you see that in every, people get titles, but they're not necessarily understand like the responsibility that it comes with it, whether it's something that's more of nonprofit, more of a group or a club or association, or in corporate America, we see a lot of that. What do you think is the biggest challenge for new leaders, maybe first-time leaders, moving from like one role where they're sort of an individual contributor and then like moving into this role? Like, what are some of the things that they need the most sort of assistance with?
Oh gosh, you just opened up a whole can of worms. So, I did a workshop last week for new leaders. It was Management 101. And really, the most important thing that I think will help leaders is emotional intelligence.
Mm.
A lot of leaders, especially if you're moving from an individual contributor role into a leadership role, you aren't really self-aware. You may not even know what that is, but it is making sure that, okay, I know how to manage my emotions. I know what my triggers are, all of that. And then look at it from a perspective of how I am responding in order to get the best out of my team. So I think that's not only for new managers, that's for existing leaders. That's
Absolutely.
for everybody. Anybody can do that. And I think one of the challenges that I've been hearing for people that move from individual contributor to leader is like some of them now are leading their peers. These are people that, we hung out with, we were at the water cooler together, we would
Yeah.
talk about other people. And it's like, oh, okay, now I'm leading those same people. How do I transition into that? That inclusion piece is really important, is because you have to think about it from the standpoint of how can I let these people know I'm the same person, or I'm connected to them, but then also help guide them and be a part of the team so they know, well, I'm not just your leader telling you what to do, but I'm also a part of the team. And often we forget that.
Yeah, and there's sometimes it goes to the new leader's head, their new position, but many times I feel like it's the people, it's the former peers that have the biggest, problem adjusting, and it makes it difficult because we were just talking trash about that manager at the water cooler, and now
Yeah.
you're the person, you're the new person in charge. In sales, I've seen it my whole career, where high achieving salespeople are they don't know where to put us, and they're like, well, I guess the next step, it should be, management of some kind. And most of the time it's not the best.
Right.
Yeah. I know that emotional intelligence there's a lot of layers to that onion. In addition to that, what are some other pieces that, if you had like a little starter kit for leaders, whether they're trying to reset and they've been doing it for 15 years, or whether they're new to their leadership position, what would be like the little starter kit? What couple of things that they would kind of take with them in addition to that emotional intelligence to start that career?
So emotional intelligence is one. I think another one that I find people are lacking is communication skills. And it has been so strange over this past, especially this year, that I'm refacilitating communication 101. Like I'm starting from scratch of how to be a good listener, how to, say what you want to say, knowing everybody's style is different. How do I get my point across? So communication is key. Emotional intelligence is key. Trust and transparency has been super huge too. In leadership, that has been, I would say that's almost my number one workshop, is leading with trust and transparency.
Yeah.
Because you can be in a leadership role and people don't trust you. They won't tell you things. They won't
Yeah.
provide you input and insight.
Yeah.
It's just like it doesn't happen. And so if you can't build trust with your team members, that becomes it makes it very difficult to lead the team.
You are absolutely right. I think that since the pandemic has started, there's a lot of just unknowns.
Hmm.
And I think that most people in most industries, there was whether a small amount or up to a very large amount of uncertainty. And people just wanted to know.
Hmm.
They didn't even want to hear everything's great. They just wanted to hear some honesty.
Right.
Even if it was, look, I'm not sure about
Right.
this or that, but here's what I do know, right? But just
Right.
look into that from their leadership. Do
Yes.
you feel like and I think we I'm guilty of doing it with my spouse, right? We
Hmm.
obviously do some of the similar things with our children where we don't want to upset them, and so we don't
Hmm.
share certain things. From a leadership standpoint, talk about finding that balance between you don't want to pull the break glass and in emergency and pull the fire alarm, but you also want to be honest and transparent with kind of the status of the company, the organization, and
Yeah.
direction and all that, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're spot on because there is a balance. And the reality is that we have to find a way to say, you know what, this is what I know and what I can share. And when you're open like that, or I even understanding that this is what I know at this point as the leader. I don't know much. And so
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that something is coming down the pipe and I'm not sure, but being, open enough and being transparent enough to say, where you are, what you know, and you do it in a responsible way. So you can't say, oh yeah, we're about to merge with someone. I know I'm not supposed to tell you, but not
Right.
don't be irresponsible in
Right.
leadership, but be responsible to make sure that you are preparing your team and equipping them with the tools and resources that they need. Because I feel like, it goes a long way when folks know that you can be trusted and that you're being honest with them.
Yeah.
I want people to say, Sandy's going to tell me as much as she knows and as much as she can because she wants me to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. um you are you're coaching all aspects of leaders, but I still consider you sort of an HR sort of strategist. Um, and I deal with HR. Those are my folks. You guys are my
Mhm.
people. And I've come across a lot of people who are looking to transition into HR recently. They have these skills that they deem this they're transferable, and I think there's a case that could be made. Um, how would you suggest someone who's coming from a different field, not someone coming out of college necessarily? I guess that you could answer that question too, like folks trying to break into the workforce that are looking for HR, and then maybe some advice for folks that are making a changing sort of fields and looking
Mhm.
to they have 8, 9, 10 years of experience, but HR is something that would be new to them. Can you
Mhm.
speak to like advice that you would give those folks as they try to enter into this world of human resources?
Yes, I mean the and it's not to dissuade people, but my first question is why. So why do you want to do this? And then I listen to the answers. Because HR is so complex and there's so many different disciplines. You have compensation, you have employee relations, you have labor relations, you have all of these different pieces that depending on what you're doing in what size organization, you could be the only person. Most companies don't have a compensation analyst.
Right.
But in larger companies, they may have that. Most companies don't have an HRIS database manager, but in the company, they will. So I asked the question why. I think one of the things that I would focus on if I was providing advice to someone that wanted to transition or new into the field is really help them understand that the new way of HR is a strategic thinker.
Mm.
So it's not a tactical compliance like it used to be, but it's more of a strategic thinker and a collaborator. So you have to be able to get along with others on other teams. That's finance, that's IT, that's your facilities, that's everybody. You have to be able to collaborate and be respected by those other teams and be strategic in the process. Also, technical skills are extremely important as an HR person. And I think that's what would set somebody apart and higher than someone else, is to say, okay, I can be a strategic thinker. I know, not just my area, I am familiar with other areas as well, being a generalist, for instance.
They gotta play nice.
Play nice.
Yeah.
It's not HR and this because I'm HR and it's not that. That world is gone. And for a lot of companies, HR is not respected. And I wanted to make sure, to me, HR is the heartbeat of any organization. And if HR doesn't have a good heartbeat, then it filters out to everybody else.
Yeah, I feel like these conversations come up a lot during my podcast because there's these HR many times, whether it's true or not, it's just perception. They're on this island many times, and then what you talked about is the strategic piece, this collaborative piece. How do you get these HR folks that may be sort of, even if it's multiple people, they're like, how do you get them at the table with the rest of the leaders where they really belong? How do you get them to be heard and to make sure that they're presenting the value that they bring to the org?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very good point of how HR leaders and how HR team members can be strategic, is to know how what you do fits into the overall organization. To know, okay, not just salary, but benefits. Okay, if I'm a strategic thinker, are there ways to increase my benefits at a lower level? I mean, a lower cost. Am I able to, when you're talking about influencing and being collaborative, that means I need to know about finance. I need to be meeting with these individuals one-on-one and get myself, if I'm not at the table, get myself invited to the table. And then when you're at the table, speak up, because the HR also has to be the one to say, this is going to hurt or help employees.
Yeah.
It's going to negatively impact them, or, this will enhance what we're doing now. But there's nothing worse than HR, one, not being at the table, but then two, being at the table and not saying anything.
Yeah. So when you get invited, don't come empty-handed.
Don't come, do your homework.
Yeah.
It's almost like we were in school. Do your homework, and to know, make sure that HR is on the agenda. Something from HR. I've always believed that you have metrics. You need metrics on, days open, days to fill, for recruiting. You need to be aware of how many people are on leave. Yes, it's a number, but it's a number that means something and has a financial value that you can share with your colleagues.
Yeah, I think that one of the popular terms is like knowing your why.
Yeah,
but it's popular because there's truth to it, and I think whether you have an organization that has 100 employees or 1,000 or 10,000, people need to know the role that they're doing, how it impacts everyone else, right? And I think the more investment that you have, the more engagement you'll receive from those folks, and you're going to get a happier, probably more productive team member, right?
Yeah. It's
How-
good to ask them. What I've learned is that, people are sitting around the table. We can come up with a whole lot of things. I mean, in my own mind, I can create a movie by myself. So I could just this the beginning and the end. But the reality is, if I never ask people and get their insight and input, I don't know. I've just made stuff up. I just said, oh, well, I think we should do this for team members. If people don't like pizza or don't want a pizza party, why are you going to throw a pizza party?
Yeah.
So you got to know what drives them and what they want.
25% of them lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Another 25% gluten intolerant. What kind of pizza you gonna have? They don't even want pizza.
Yeah.
Right.
Or vegan, or yeah.
Right. So I think that there's what I'm hearing from you and what I've heard from other HR leaders is it's these silos that we operate in.
Mm-hmm.
And just from a generic communications, you talk about this, this movie, we can tell ourselves a story and all we need is one person to agree with us. And now it's true. Not the person that I got the problem with or the perceived problem, but my friend who say, yeah, Bax, Sandy, she sound like she tripping. Now we never talked to Sandy.
Yep.
Because communication, and you mentioned this earlier, is not being able to speak well, which I've learned. It don't matter how you speak if it's not connecting with the audience that you're trying to connect with, right? How can people be sure that they are approachable, that that people feel like their leaders' doors are actually open, and it ain't just open physically, but that you feel comfortable walking in and sharing, and it's a safe space.
Yeah, I mean, that's super huge. And I'll give you an example. I had a team member, I was VP over HR talent, and I had a team member come in and say, Sandy, do you have a few minutes? And I'm like, sure, come on in. But inadvertently, I had looked at my watch, and they said, do you have time? And I said, yeah, why? Well, you look down at your watch when I asked you that question. And that's not the first time that you've done that. So now it's unconscious to me, but I'm really saying, how long is this going to take me when I'm looking at my watch and someone asks me, can I come in? Do you have a few minutes to talk? So the open door is, physically you can open the door, but then also we have to take time and disconnect from things sometimes to make sure we're paying attention to people who are really saying, do you have a few minutes, or can I talk to you about this? And I find, that means locking your computer, turning away from your computer, or that means getting up from your office and going to a conference room, or getting on Zoom and meeting with someone one-on-one. So we have to be intentional about making sure that we are communicating well and intentionally with somebody else. And you can do it virtually. But I bring that up as that was something that I didn't know that I did, that somebody trusted me enough to say, hey, you're doing this. Are you sure you have enough time? And I'm like, I thank you for sharing that, because I didn't even know I was doing it.
Right. Yeah, you could be looking to see exactly how much time you have Right, but it's perceived as something
How is
else.
it perceived?
So, gosh, so when you talk about having that time, is it okay to sometimes say, you know what, I don't have time right now, but let's put something on the calendar?
Yeah, because I generally ask, I know to ask now, is this something that's urgent? And then they're like, oh no, we can talk about it in the morning. Great. Let's talk about it, at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Let's talk about it first thing in the morning. But sometimes we don't even ask that. We will say, okay, come in, and then we have this rushed demeanor as though we're really being open with the person that's saying, I just need some time from you. But if now's not the right time, or if you have, you got to get something to the CEO, you may say, well, I'm available after 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Would that work for you? It's being aware and being honest of, everybody knows we're moving 100 miles a minute. And I think that if there's one recommendation that I've had with leaders, is slow down and make sure that you are taking time to communicate effectively with your team members. I've had team members say, if my leader would just put good morning at the top of the email, I would feel a whole lot better. And I'm like, come on, y'all. This is very basic stuff. We can say, hope you had a great weekend before you say, when are you gonna have this done?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the little
It,
things.
yeah. No, for sure. For sure. So we talked about this open door policy. What about when folks are working remote
Mhm.
and and their teams thing, it says is, it's red. It's mean is that they're in a meeting or they're unavailable, and you don't have dedicated time um for everyone on your calendar as a leader. Do you suggest having, like, how do you suggest making sure that you're keeping people engaged
Yes.
when you guys are physically not in the same space anymore?
So now you're like, we can go for a whole nother hour now.
I know. That'll be the next conversation.
Like that. Well, one is, and I'll pose this in two different ways. One is, since the pandemic, um, poor leaders were poor leaders before we went to work from home. And now it's magnified, and it seems like the poor leaders are micromanaging.
Mm,
Um, and then you have the sense of, okay, people are working from home. In the back of some leaders' minds, they're like, oh, they're not really working. I wonder if they're working.
mm,
They may be at the mall, or they may be, at the
yeah,
grocery store. And so the reality is, that goes back to that trust piece. I always think it's important to set up time with your team, but I also balance that with the fact of setting up time with my team. Even if I did that weekly or bi-weekly, I don't want to overdo it, because I want them to feel like they're comfortable, you know, coming to talk to me whenever they want to, but
yeah,
I don't want them to feel like I'm micromanaging them and they can't do, I don't trust you enough to go a whole week without talking to
yeah,
me.
yeah. No, yeah, yeah. It's you want to make sure that they know that you're there. But if you're just putting stuff on the calendar just to have it,
Just to, yeah, why are you doing that?
yeah,
Why? There's a kind of infographic that's called wait, but it's why are you talking? Why am I talking? And so essentially, it's like, are you just talking to talk? Or are you setting up a meeting just to set up a meeting?
yeah,
Like, is there not an agenda? Because if a meeting doesn't have an agenda, then it's not really a meeting. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Just
yeah,
check in to see if they're there. I wanna catch you at 8 o'clock in the morning to just see if you there.
yeah, yeah. I think that the the poor leaders are, they don't know where they don't they're trying to show their value, and they don't know how to do that because they're poor leaders. Right. That doesn't mean that they'll always be poor leaders. They need to talk to you at Exodus and get some skills. But in all seriousness, they don't know they want people back in office so they can
Watch them.
walk. Why? But because they don't have any, they're not doing anything else, and that shouldn't be our fault.
Yeah, I think some leaders are, their personality is such that they need people back in the office to be back around them. But the way I've tried to help leaders transition to this new reality is that you can do that same type of connection virtually. And so figure out, if I need to draw energy from, if you're an extrovert and you need to draw energy from your team, figure out how to engage your team.
Yeah.
So if we're on, maybe we're doing a trivia at 2:00 on Friday. Maybe we're doing, a pasta lunch, and everybody brings their pasta dish. And we're just talking about, if you want to engage people, really engage them. And that means that sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone in order to be able to do that effectively.
I think that, the communication 101, all of these things, we're going to need, people have needed more refreshers because their world is changing as far as what their expectations are, and kind of how they have operated for years and years in the workforce. It's just not the same anymore. And some of us are a little more rigid and a little more adverse to the changes that's happening. I want to shout out the millennials, because Dr. Mary Cooney said that the millennials helped us transition to the remote because of the way that the millennials kind of entered the workforce, right? And have asked for that balance, right? So that's why you have to have a diverse workforce so that you can learn, so that all of the generations can teach each other things, right? Because we all have value. We have value. We just, it has to be, people have to know that just because you're 24 or 34, that means that these people know stuff too, and just because you're 64 or 74 doesn't mean that you that you don't know anything, or or what isn't relevant anymore. But it also goes the same for cultural diversity and everything else. Talk about the importance of diversity and why not only is it the right thing to do, but talk about it from a business standpoint and the advantages that organizations see when they do have a diverse talent, kind of.
Absolutely. I mean, the ROI is there of why it's important to have diverse talent. I mean, anywhere from 24 to 40% increase in revenue and profitability when you have gender and racial diversity at the highest levels within your organization. When we're talking about inclusion, one small premise that I think about is to treat others as they would like to be treated. That's the golden rule. I mean, that's the platinum rule.
Yes.
Is how does somebody else want to be treated? Instead of thinking about, well, I'm gonna treat them like I want to be treated. Well, for a lot of people, and I use this even when I facilitate leadership groups, I don't like chocolate. So you can buy me all the chocolate in the world, and I'm like, you know nothing about me. You don't care about me because you're getting me what you want, not what I want. And so when we think about in the workplace, we just assume people's needs are the same, and that's not true. But when we get to know each other on a one-on-one basis, as a leader, I am responsible for doing that. I am accountable for my team. I'm accountable to my team, but I have to make sure that I know them well enough and provide the psychological safety for them to be able to share, Sandy, I don't have what I need, or I'm just having a bad day. You know, we can't talk today. Can we talk tomorrow? And because I know them and I know that they're a good worker, I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, let's recap and let's redo this tomorrow. You know, but I know them and I know the intent, but I also assume good intention. And I never, you know, as a leader, there's nothing worse than leading thinking that everybody's against you or
Yeah.
everybody's cheating
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
people aren't working. You know, I'm like, why lead if that's how you have to lead?
Right. That's right. That's right. You're stressing yourself out. You're stressing everybody else out. Not the most effective way to lead. Um, I know we're running up against it. Do you have a couple of extra minutes?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
because there's a couple other things I want to make sure that we cover it. But if we didn't, I want to be conscious of that. I first want to just talk about NAAA HR.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Dr. Lee.
Dr. Lee, shout out to Dr. Lee. Um, I think that's where we met. Was at an event.
Years ago.
Yeah, the uh, National African Americans, or is it National Association of African Americans and Human Resources?
Yes.
Yes, yes. So the Michigan chapter, I mean, talk about the group of people that you've met over the years there, and just talking about diversity. When Dr. Lee was on, we talked about the fact that there's a lot of, not only is HR feeling like they're sitting on the island many times, when you are Black in HR, you really feel like you're on an island, right? Like, talk about the community and what's being built, what Dr. Lee's been a part of, and what you've been a part of sort of building with the NAAA HR chapter, the Michigan chapter.
Yes. So, I mean, NAAA HR is a way for people to get connected. So I tell people all the time, you know, if you want to meet other African Americans in HR, that is a good place to connect. It's a statewide, you know, association. But especially virtually now, you know, even when I hop on these calls, each call is very different because there are different people on there. And so, you know, I try not to miss them, but I realize it's an opportunity if it's a safe place, because it's an opportunity for people to be connected. But then also, if you're looking to connect to another organization, or if you're looking for an opportunity, it is a good networking group in order to be able to find your next space.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, the networking, the community, the bouncing of ideas, right?
Yeah.
The, hey, here's what I'm working on. Have you have you done something similar, or let me help you walk you through this, because I've done it before. So yeah, shout out to the incredible work that Dr. Lee and the entire group is doing, and I include the members in too, because without the members, then there ain't nothing there. So shout out to NAAA HR, and just another opportunity to sort of join forces and have an additional layer of support. I think it's huge. Um, I want to talk about um, the coaching that you do. Well, first of all, the church.
Okay.
Um, you are an ordained minister. You're pastor. You co-pastor with your
With my
husband, right?
husband. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about that experience, and I know that faith is woven into everything that you do, and it's
Yep.
big part of who you are. So talk about that, and um how you kind of navigate between the corporate world and.
Well, I feel very fortunate because I don't find navigating difficult. My husband founded the church 27 years ago. So he founded the church, Serenity Christian Church in Hazel Park, and so everybody that knows me knows I talk about John Harvey. So the John Harvey. But I enjoyed the work. The coaching is not different. I coach pastors that are starting new congregations or new ministries. I have five that I'm coaching now across the country. So everybody's in a different space. But I look at each of being a leader and being a pastor as an entrepreneurial venture. And to
Sure.
me, it's the same exact, you need the same skills, you need to be engaged with people. I mean, it's the same thing. It's not different.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And so even leaders, even if you're leading an HR team or you're leading a particular department, you have to be entrepreneurial. You have to be connected to people. You have to be, transparent. You can't always be right. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. And faith to me is extremely important because it is a ruler by which not only do I measure myself by, but then also the work that I do, is it excellent? I wake up every day and making sure if I can't give my clients the excellent and best work possible, I'm slacking. I gotta do better.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to live my life, is to live it in an excellent way, unapologetically. Because women sometimes can be viewed as, aggressive when you're confident. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, why is it different for women?
Right.
Why do men get to be, assertive and then women are aggressive? I don't understand.
Right.
So it's being open to have those type of conversations, but it all goes together. To me, it's all one thing.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, it comes down to the people, right? And how are you going to engage those folks? Like you said, we're simplifying it quite a bit, but ultimately when you boil it down, I mean, like you said, you have to have that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. When I had led a team, we were part of a bigger sort of thing, but I had to make sure that my people were taken care of, and I wanted to lead by example, and that excellence that you speak of, I wanted to make sure that they were getting the best of me, because I feel like that's what they deserve. That's what they deserve, and then we can move and then represent ourselves well when we talk to the rest of the departments, and make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable so that we can have the confidence to hold other people accountable as well.
That's right.
Yeah. So I just first just salute to you. I finally met John Harvey not
Yes,
too
you
long
did.
ago, and I just just the delight that kind of that you guys have. It's just it's comforting to be around. I just want to salute you for all the work that you're doing, and just I'm honored to be an associate of yours. I'm excited about the rapport that we're building, and I think it's important for folks to know that there's people out here that are doing excellent work, that not only are good people, but they know their stuff too. It is not, you ain't just nice. You know what you're talking about.
I do. I try. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. The old folks says it's more than a notion. You can't just nice your way through everything. You have to know, it doesn't mean you know everything, but you need to know the questions to ask. You need to be humble enough to when you don't know to and I and everything that I've seen from you says that you get it. You get it.
Well,
So
I try. I appreciate it. I mean, humility to me, because I know we all have so much more to learn. We all need to be humble.
yes, yes, yes. We talked about, you know, leadership, new leaders, old leaders, new leaders in the corporate world, new leaders, pastoring the church. Um, we talked about that diversity and sort of what that means, right? It's not just one thing. It's diverse ideas, um,
Yep.
cultural, gender, generational. As a HR leader yourself, as a sort of a strategist, what is one thing that you are dealing with? Maybe not since the pandemic, but just in general, since you've started coaching, not just the company that maybe
Mhm.
in your world, but like when you've gone out and met these different leaders in these different stages of their career, what gives you the most hope about sort of these new leaders, as in this very strange different world since 2020? Like, what are you most hopeful about, Sandy?
I would say for me, what I've seen is I've engaged with leaders that have been willing to take a step back and reflect on themselves. So because I do a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging work, I get people to really say, okay, now wait a minute. If my goal is to pull people in, I can't run them away.
Hello.
So how can I do better? And the one thing I would say for me since the pandemic, that the one word that I use is grace.
Mm,
Is, can I extend grace to myself, but then also can I extend grace to other people? So it's unfair to ask somebody to do something that you won't even do yourself.
that's
Don't
right.
ask nobody to be a better leader and you won't. Don't ask anybody to be a better communicator and you're not communicating. So it's kind of like thinking about, what can I do better to be better, to better impact those that are around me. And so that really boils down to some of the stuff that I've seen as leaders are willing to say, I want to do more in the work of inclusion. And I realize it starts with me. So that in itself is a great place to start. And all of these companies, I feel like I'm just, each one reach one. That's what my husband says. He's like,
Yeah,
just if you focus on one person, then you can make an impact in the world.
that's right. No, it's yeah. Again, boiling it down, right, and just focusing on the things that we can control,
That's
and
right.
things, and then those people will be inspired to do the same thing. And next thing you know, you got something.
Yeah.
You got something. Sandy, if people want to connect with you, if they're looking for coaching, if they're looking for speaking, like how can folks find you?
Absolutely. So people can find me at exodusconsultinggroup.com. That's my website. I am Sandy Lynn Harvey on all social media platforms. Well, I'll just say the four top. I am not on all social media platforms because I don't have that much time. But you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, both Exodus Consulting Group and Sandy Harvey. So I am always open to having conversations and really appreciate, having this time to kind of chat with you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for joining my frequency. I always feel like I'm actually joining my guest frequency, and I continue to learn more about you. And if it's possible, I've become even more impressed by what you're doing. Being in this people business, it ain't easy, you know.
I'm on the double people business. I'm in the church people business and I'm in the corporate people business.
Yeah, That's daunting. That's daunting. But I just want to say on behalf of Sandy, I am Baxter E. Hall. Thank you guys for checking out the conversation. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Don't be stingy. If it's something that you found some value in, there may be others. And I want to encourage everyone to embrace your own frequency, right? You are more than enough. You just have to find your frequency. So until next time, welcome again to Baxter's Buzz. Peace.